Jackson.
I am the co-chair of the Brecht Forum.
I am the co-chair of the Brecht Forum.
And that's one of the hats I wear.
And that's one of the hats I wear.
And my comrade Rick Wolf is also on the board of the Brecht Forum.
And my comrade Rick Wolf is always on board of the Brecht Forum.
The Brecht Forum, if you haven't visited, is a place where working class ideas
It's a place where working class ideas
and culture
get
get played out,
played out,
get thought out,
get thought out,
get fought out.
get fought out.
And we welcome you.
And we welcome you.
We're on the West Side Highway and Bank Street.
We're on West Side Highway and Bank Street.
If you forget it, just remember brechtforum.org.
If you forget it, just remember brechtforum.org.
So Rick here is going to speak to you this evening
So Rick here is going to speak to you this evening
on the current crisis of capitalism
on the current crisis of capitalism
and how you here in Liberty Park
and how you here in Liberty Park
is pushing positively against that crisis.
is pushing positively against that crisis.
There's a lot to learn from Brother Rick.
There's a lot to learn from Brother Rick.
So let's get started.
So let's get started.
Thank you all for coming here.
Thank you all for coming here.
It is an honor for me as a lifelong teacher in universities to have a different situation, a different classroom.
It's an honor for me.
To say it briefly,
To say it briefly,
this is the best classroom I could imagine.
this is the best classroom I could imagine.
And the reason is simple,
And the reason is simple.
because I'm teaching people ready to act on what they learn.
Because I'm teaching people who are ready to act on what they learn.
And who are not afraid to take new directions in a country that desperately needs it.
And who are not afraid to take new directions in a country that desperately needs it.
Earlier today,
Earlier today,
the head of the Federal Reserve,
the head of the Federal Reserve,
Ben Bernanke,
Ben Bernanke,
referred to the American economy
referred to the American economy
as experiencing a sluggish recovery.
as experiencing a sluggish recovery.
He lives on a different planet.
He lives on a different planet.
There has been no recovery
There has been no recovery
for 99% of the American people.
for 99% of the American people.
The people you are leading in a new direction.
The people you are leading in a new direction.
I know that the idea of leading is scary,
I know that the idea of leading is scary,
and you may not want to,
and you may not want to,
but you're doing it anyway.
but you're doing it anyway.
And most of America is applauding you.
On you.
Please remember with me,
Please remember with me,
every day that you persevere,
every day that you persevere,
you make it easier
you make it easier
for people across this country
for people across this country
who used to feel alone
who used to feel alone
when they watched an economic system fall apart.
when they watched an economic system fall apart.
They thought they didn't have anyone else who shared what they felt.
They thought they didn't have anyone else who shared what they felt.
You are making it possible for them to
You
feel
are making it possible for them
to feel stronger, not alone, and that is changing this country.
to feel stronger, not alone, and that is changing this country.
So, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
And I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
Teachers like me across the nation
Teachers like me across the nation
are deeply grateful for what you are doing here.
are deeply grateful for what you are doing here.
In all humility,
In all humility,
let me plead with you about one important issue.
let me plead with you about one important issue.
There is a reality that is behind the concerns we all have.
There is a reality behind the concerns we all have.
I mean the concern about the grotesque inequality that exists in this country.
I mean about the grotesque inequality that exists in this country.
I mean the attack on the natural environment we all depend on.
I mean the attack on the natural environment we all depend on.
And I mean the fundamental corruption of our political system.
And I mean the fundamental corruption of our political system.
The most important for me issue
The most important for me issue
is that you and we have the courage
is that you and we have the courage
to name and change the reality behind all of that.
To name and change the reality behind all that.
And by that, I hope it comes as no surprise.
And by that, I hope it comes as no surprise.
It is the economic system called capitalism.
It is the economic system called capitalism.
And let me explain what I mean.
And let me explain what I mean.
I mean the way we organize the production of the goods and services we all depend on.
I mean the way we organize the production of the goods and services we all depend on.
The way we do it now has failed and broken down.
The way we do it now has failed and broken down.
We have a system in which a tiny group of people,
We have a system in which a tiny group of people,
and they have names.
and they have names.
They're the major shareholders of all our corporations.
They're the major shareholders of all our corporations.
They're the boards of directors of the same corporation.
They're the boards of directors of the same corporations.
They make all the key decisions.
They make all the key decisions.
What to produce,
What to produce,
how to produce it,
how to produce it,
what to do with the products that come out,
what to do with the products that come out,
and how to dispose of the profits all of our labor creates.
and how to dispose of the profits that all our labor creates.
And we know what they do with it.
And we know what they do with it.
They give themselves obscene bonuses and salaries.
They give themselves obscene bonuses and salaries.
They move the jobs of Americans out of this country in order to make more money by exploiting workers abroad.
They move the jobs out of this country in order to make more money by exploiting the workers abroad.
Sorry. They use their profits to buy the political system.
They use their profits to buy the political system.
That's why America
That's why America
has the best democracy money can buy.
has the best democracy money can buy.
If we don't want
If we don't want
economic inequality,
economic inequality,
a destroyed natural environment,
a destroyed natural environment,
a corrupt politics. We cannot let our industries be organized this way.
We cannot let our industries be organized this way.
Imagine a new program.
Imagine a new program.
Imagine it was called Democracy at Work.
Imagine it was called
Democracy at Work.
Here's what it means.
Here's what it means.
The workers who go to work every day,
Workers who go to work every day,
accompanied by rhythm,
accompanied by rhythm.
they ought to be the ones
They ought
To be the ones
who make the decisions
who make the decisions.
what to produce,
What to produce,
how to produce,
how to produce,
and what to do with the profits.
and what to do with the profits.
Then we would have
Then we would have
nothing like the inequality we have today.
nothing like the inequality we have today.
No jobs going out of the country and into people's lives,
No jobs going out of the country.
and the money would make politics serve us,
and the money would make politics serve us,
not the rich who are the shareholders
not the rich who are the shareholders
and the boards of directors.
and the boards of directors.
We could call this cooperation.
We could call this cooperation.
We could call it a co-op.
We could call it a co-op.
We could call it a democratic political and economic system.
We could call it a democratic political and economic system.
And when our enemies use words like socialism and communism, we should. Our answer is, it's over.
It's over.
You can't shut us up
You can't shut us up
with language
with language
whose intent
whose intent
is to keep a broken system going.
is to keep a broken system going.
For many years,
For many years,
Americans have debated
Americans have debated
the education system,
The education system,
the health system,
the health system,
the transportation system.
the transportation system.
We debated, we criticized them.
We debated, we criticized them.
That's how we make them better.
That's how we make them better.
That's how we change them.
That's how we change them.
Why in the world
why in the world
was one institution
was one institution
taboo?
taboo.
You couldn't question it.
Couldn't
You
question it.
couldn't criticize it.
Couldn't criticize it.
That's a legacy of the Cold War.
That's a legacy of the Cold War.
Capitalism was taboo.
Capitalism was taboo.
All you could do was celebrate it and cheerlead it. If you want to remember what that's like, just listen to any debate in the United States Congress any day. Capitalism hid behind the taboo of an honest debate. That's why it degenerated into the unequal and unjust system it imposes on us today. You are the movement that can and that I hope will break that taboo. Have the courage to subject the capitalist system to the same honest criticism and honest debate that should have been going on for the last 50 years. Here's an idea to think about. The United States can do better than capitalism. At a time in this country where every day thousands of Americans experience in their own lives that capitalism doesn't work for them. The idea that we could do better than capitalism has a mass audience. You can gather and mobilize that audience. And the United States will be in the debt of this movement for generations to come. Last point for me. The idea of going beyond capitalism. Of beginning to believe that working people and the people of communities have the capacity to organize and produce the goods and services is a matter of growing up. Don't imagine that a handful of people have some special competence to organize the economic system. If they did, this country wouldn't be in the mess it's in. Once upon a time, we were told that only a king or a czar or an emperor had the competence to govern us politically. We eventually cut off their heads. I am not advocating anything like that. Far be it from me. But if democracy is a good idea instead of monarchy, then democratizing our workplaces is a lot better than the autocracy and the aristocracy governing our economic well-being. If what we do most of our adult lives is go to work. 5 days a week. Most of the hours of the day. Then the most important place to express our commitment to democracy is in the workplace. And if not there, we can't be surprised if it's not real anywhere else. We have a phony political democracy. Because we don't have a real economic democracy. That's what has to change. And those of us who believe it are pleading with you
And those of us that believe it are pleading with you
that transforming enterprises
that transforming enterprises
becomes part
becomes part
of the agenda for social change
of the agenda for social change
that you are putting on the forefront of America's consciousness.
that you are putting on the forefront of America's consciousness.
The whole world is watching what is going on here.
Is watching what is going on here.
Where before
Where before
eyes were focused on Athens
eyes were focused on Athens
or Madrid
or Madrid
or Rome or Paris, now the issue has come home
the issue has come home
to where this economic crisis began.
to where this economic crisis began.
Everything is changing
Everything is changing
because of what you are doing.
because of what you are doing.
So on behalf of enormous numbers of people,
So on behalf of enormous numbers of people,
thank you.
thank you.
Sure, if people want to.
So we have some time for questions. Does anybody have a question?
What you were saying about transforming the workplace, economies of scale, labor arbitrage. How do you get around it, and can you at this point get around it? And what sectors would you think would be easy enough to get around it?
The question is basically, how could a cooperative way
Cooperative way
of producing goods and services
of producing goods and services
handle the problem
handle the problem
that some things are best made
that some things are best made
in huge enterprises,
in huge enterprises.
what economists call
What economists call
economies of scale?
economies of scale.
Here is my answer.
Here is my answer.
We have a choice to make
We have a choice to make
between producing huge quantities of stuff
between producing huge quantities of stuff
and having a democratic, honorable, equal society.
and having a democratic, honorable, equal society.
There never was a vote.
There never was a vote.
There never was a public discussion
There never was a public discussion
where the American people
where the American people
could choose
could choose
between having smaller,
between having smaller,
more cooperative
more cooperative
enterprises
enterprises
as opposed to mega corporations.
mega corporations.
We have the power to force
We have the power to force
a decision
a decision
for the first time,
for the first time.
but it means
It means
confronting capitalism.
confronting capitalism.
They wanted the big corporations
They wanted the big corporations
because they got the big profits.
because they got the big profits.
We got
We got
horrific jobs.
horrific jobs.
We have to reopen
We have to reopen
the question
the question
of how we want to work,
of how we want to work,
how we want that major part
how we want that major part
of all of our lives
of all of our lives
to be organized.
to be organized.
That's just as important
That's just as important
of filling our living spaces
filling our living spaces
with 3 times
with 3 times
the appliances
the appliances
that we can ever use.
we can ever use.
A rational society
A rational society
would ask
would ask
for public discussion
for public discussion
and democratic decision
and democratic decision
about how we work.
about how we work.
Capitalism
Capitalism
never offered us that right.
never offered us that right.
One more reason
One more reason
to say goodbye to that system.
to say goodbye to that system.
Thank you for what you achieved,
Thank you for what you achieved,
but the United States
but the United States
can now do better
can now do better
than capitalism.
than capitalism.
I'm a medical device entrepreneur. I've started a company to make a medical device that can potentially treat a lot of people with asthma and other diseases and be life-saving. I want to hire people and grow my business. In your model, I forget what you dubbed it, but in your model, who's supposed to design my device and tell me how many I'm supposed to make and how best to distribute it? Who exactly?
Question was, if you're a developer of new medical devices that can help people, but you need money to go into production, hire people, how would that get worked out? Who decides all of these questions? The best answer is to show you how it's done now. If you are such an entrepreneur, you have to go to a private banker. And beg on your knees for a loan. Or you go to a stockbroker and beg them to do what's called an initial public offering of shares. You are then the prisoner of the shareholders and the bankers. That's the system that is breaking down around us. The government. And in the greatest irony, the government which is funding and sustaining them is using your money to do it. Shame on them for doing it. Shame on us for permitting it. That's what you're changing.
Do we have any more questions?
Question is, do I advocate a national strike? I certainly dream about it. And I'm very impressed. What has been accomplished by the general national strikes in Greece, in Italy, in France, in Spain, in Ireland, and many other countries. That was a weapon that let governments know across Europe that they could not impose on their people the austerity that is their way of trying to make the average person pay for the collapse of capitalism as a system. And the governments there trying to impose austerity are being defeated by mass action. Let me give you some examples. 2 weeks ago, in the little country of Denmark, something called the Red Bloc. Socialists, anti-capitalist parties,
Anti-capitalist parties.
Green parties, swept into power, making for the first time in Denmark's history a woman prime minister. The leader. Second example. 10 days ago, in the country of France, which has a Senate, which has been governed by conservatives since 1958. The conservatives, led by Sarkozy, their leader, was defeated. Socialists and communists will enter and take over the Senate come the first of the year.
Take over the Senate.
Third example. I won't give you more examples, just one more. Germany, the largest economy of Europe. There, the Prime Minister, Angela Merkel by name, has lost the last 3 regional elections. Like Sarkozy, she is getting poll numbers like George Bush in the last months of his disaster. The mass action of the German working class is defeating Angela Merkel. A combination of working class parties and a powerful Green Party in Germany forced Mrs. Merkel during the summer to make an historic about-face. For years, she had been a champion of nuclear energy as the basis for Germany's power. In August of this year, facing catastrophic election losses, Merkel went on German television and made an absolute commitment to shut down every nuclear power reactor in Germany. And that is now underway. Mass action. General strikes. Achieve those victories. Every country and every movement has to find its way, its tools, its program. You are working on that. It's not for me. Or our brothers and sisters in Europe to make our strategy. But I am convinced that we will need to find comparable ways to turn country around.
From aristocracy to democracy, what would you say about the historical legacy of communism and how this fits in?
The question was about the historical legacy of communism, feudalism that went before. In the Soviet Union, major changes were made. Property was taken from private owners and made into state property. Markets were repressed and planning was substituted. What they did not change was how the production enterprise was organized. In the daily life of Russian workers, they continued to come to work 9 to 5, then go home. The basic decisions, what to produce, how to produce, and what to do with the profits were made by a corps of state officials. They were supposed to make those decisions in the interests of everybody. That didn't work out. We have to learn from that. Not to throw out everything they did. That would be stupid. We have to criticize where they went wrong. And take some different direction. That's why I stress changing the base of society. Not putting our faith in a government alone. But making sure any government depends on the mass of the people at the base. And the only way that I can see making that happen is if the mass of people take control, own, operate, and make the decisions about the production of the goods and services a society depends on. That's the lesson I take from a failed experiment that also has drama, achievements, a level of equality, and other lessons we would be crazy not to learn also. And if we get called names because we don't dismiss these revolutions, we should have the courage to say we will not be ideological pawns. We will take lessons from wherever they will help us do better than capitalism. And if we get called names because we don't dismiss these revolutions, we should have the courage to say we will not be ideological pawns.
Ideological pawns.
We will take lessons
We will take lessons
from wherever they will help us
They will help us
do better than capitalism.
do better than capitalism.
Wallerstein was interviewed on RT today, posted, and he thinks that we're at the end of the 500-year period of capitalism. And I wonder what your thoughts on that.
The question was about an interview given by Emanuel Wallerstein on RT television today. He said that capitalism is coming to the end of a 500-year cycle. I have great respect for Professor Wallerstein. He's done wonderful work. He has much to teach. But when I hear my esteemed colleagues talking about waves of development running 500 years, my eyes glaze over. Maybe he's right. But I guess we'll have to wait to see. Meanwhile, I am sure that capitalism's future is more in your hands now, more dependent on the crisis inside it and the opposition building against it than on any long cycles we could imagine. When Marx wrote his critique, his image of capitalism's end was not that it was attacked from outside, was not that it was in danger from terrorists. Marx's argument is that capitalism would survive unless and until the internal contradictions, the things about it that undermine each other, make it collapse. And make the people who live in that collapse declare that a new and different system has to be begun. That's what's looming here. And Marx, if he were here today, would have a big grin and probably say, in good German, I told you so. I noticed that over the last 3 weeks, the stalwart capitalist news agency that has the same name as the mayor of New York, and that's not a coincidence. The Bloomberg News Service has carried two stories praising the insights of Karl Marx. When Bloomberg discovers Marx, capitalism is in deep doo-doo. how I would
Would
define money
define money
and talk about the mint
and talk about the mint
and creating money.
and creating money.
Let me answer
Let me answer
by very briefly
by very briefly
making sure
making sure
we all understand
we all understand
how money is created
how money is created
now.
now.
Two agencies
Two agencies
determine
determine
the quantity of money in circulation.
the quantity of money in circulation.
The first
The first
is a half government,
half government,
half private
half private
agency
agency
called the Federal Reserve.
called the Federal Reserve.
They, at the top,
They at the top
have a board of governors,
have a board of governors,
12 bankers,
12 bankers,
led by a professor of economics
led by a professor of economics
named Bernanke.
named Bernanke.
They decide
They decide
how much money
how much money
will be created.
will be created.
That means
That means
they decide
they decide
how many dollar bills to print,
how many dollar bills to print,
and 50s,
and
and hundreds,
hundreds,
and nickels,
and nickels,
all of it.
all of it.
Bernanke calls the mint.
Bernanke calls the mint.
He announces the decision.
He announces the decision.
We 12 governors
We 12 governors
think
think
it would be a good idea
it would be a good idea
that there be 20 billion more dollars circulating.
that there be $20 billion circulating.
Roll the presses.
Roll the presses.
That's it.
That's it.
They do not have to
They do not have to
get the permission,
get the permission,
not of the president,
not of the president,
not of the Congress,
not of the Congress,
not of the Supreme Court.
not of the Supreme Court.
They don't have to have any backing.
They don't have to have any backing.
There doesn't need to be any gold.
There doesn't need to be any gold.
They can print it
They can print it
as they see fit.
as they see fit.
Over the last 4 years,
Over the last 4 years,
terrified by the collapse of capitalism here,
terrified by the collapse of capitalism here,
they have increased the amount of money
they have increased the amount of money
by hundreds of billions of dollars.
by hundreds of billions of dollars.
No one knows
No one knows
what the full consequences
what the full consequences
of this may be.
of this may be.
In the short run,
In the short run,
it boosts the economy a bit.
it boosts the economy a bit.
Most of that money
Most of that money
went into the stock market
went into the stock market
and bid up the prices.
and bid up the prices.
That was good for shareholders.
That was good for shareholders.
Little of the money
Little of the money
went into the economy,
went into the economy.
which is why we don't have any lessening of unemployment and all the suffering
And all the suffering
that goes with it.
that goes with it.
The question is,
The question is,
what might happen
what might happen
if all that extra money
if all that extra money
began being used to buy things?
began being used to buy things?
Then we would have too much, then we would have
Then we would have
too much money
too much money
chasing too few goods.
chasing too few goods.
And the people with money
And the people with money
would bid up the price of everything.
would bid up the price of everything.
That's called an inflation.
That's called an inflation.
All around the world,
All around the world,
one of the great fears
one of the great fears
is that a dysfunctional capitalism
That a dysfunctional capitalism
is trying desperately
is trying desperately
to print its way
to print its way
out of a depression
out of a depression
and thereby threatening to plunge us
plunge us
into an inflation.
into an inflation.
This is a system that is out of control.
This is a system that is out of control.
Far better
Far better
would be to have a new democratically controlled agency of government
agency of government
whose decisions
whose decisions
about money
about money
were governed
were governed
by what we all need
by what we all need
and want,
and want,
not by
not by
a handful
a handful
of giant banks
of giant banks
who now dominate
who now dominate
our economic
our economic
and monetary system.
and monetary system.
Okay. You and then you.
How does war and things like we're in New York City, how does war and 9/11 play into this stuff? Because we're talking about macro issues and there's greed and there's corruption and there's suffering, but I personally have a hard time believing that we could be that against ourselves because information is so accessible and you don't know what is reliable. And what is your opinion and comment to that?
This question
Had many parts,
but I'm going to focus
but I'm going to focus
on the opening point,
on the opening point,
which concerns war
which concerns war
and its relation to all of this.
and its relation to all of this.
This is more complicated
This is more complicated
than we often face.
than we often face.
On the one hand,
On the one hand,
we are spending
we are spending
trillions with a T
trillions with a T
on 4 wars:
on 4 wars:
Iraq,
Iraq,
Afghanistan,
Afghanistan,
Pakistan, Libya,
Libya,
not to speak of lesser actions elsewhere.
not to speak of lesser actions elsewhere.
Part of our view
Part of our view
is that we can see
is that we can see
that we would be better off
that we would be better off
using that money
using that money
to maintain
to maintain
the quality of life
the quality of life
and improve the quality of life
and improve the quality of life
for most Americans,
for most Americans,
rather than killing people
rather than killing people
over there.
over there.
However,
However,
we have half a century
we have half a century
of making the American economy
of making the American economy
dependent
dependent
on production
on production
for war.
for war.
To dismantle that is a task
Is a task
capitalist corporations do not want to risk.
capitalist corporations do not want to risk.
They are making good money
They are making good money
producing for war.
producing for war.
To really overcome the war,
To really overcome the war,
we're back to square one.
we're back to square one.
We have to change organization of our enterprises.
We have to change the organization of our enterprises.
The people are ready
The people are ready
to reorganize the economy,
to reorganize the economy,
to end our dependence on war.
to end our dependence on war.
That we have to face,
That we have to face.
otherwise our request
Otherwise, our request
to stop spending on war
to stop spending on war
will be opposed
will be opposed
by millions of Americans
by millions of Americans
persuaded
persuaded
that their jobs
that their jobs
depend on it.
depend on it.
We have an answer.
We have an answer.
The reorganization of an economy
The
So their well-being
Well-being
no longer depends
no longer depends
on oppressing the people of the world.
on oppressing the people of the world.
That's where we have to go.
That's where we have to go.
Sir, knowing that it should be in anyone's best interest here that they could potentially be called a terrorist, is the Patriot Act something that we should be looking at? For instance, if one of you are arrested and they enact the fact that you guys are terrorists, you can be held in court without due process. Does that worry you at all?
The question is,
Question is,
am I worried
am I worried
by the Patriot Act
by the Patriot Act
and the right of the government
and the right of the government
to brand almost anyone
to brand almost anyone
a terrorist,
a terrorist,
arrest that person,
arrest that person,
and hold them
and hold them
indefinitely
indefinitely
with little or no basic civil rights?
basic civil rights?
I have a simple answer.
I have a simple answer.
Yes.
Yes.
And I would find it strange
And I would find it strange
if everybody wasn't worried.
if everybody wasn't worried
In a country
in a country
that spends a lot of time
that spends a lot of time
defending
defending
and admiring
and admiring
personal freedom,
personal freedom.
we have a government now
We have a government now
to whom we have allowed
to whom we have allowed
attacks
attacks
and deprivations
and deprivation
of our personal freedom
of our personal freedom
on an unprecedented
on an unprecedented
scale.
scale.
That needs to be changed.
That needs to be changed.
And here is an interesting fact.
And here is an interesting fact.
At the other end of the political spectrum,
At the other end of the political spectrum,
there is a sizable group
there is a sizable group
of people
of people
who, for different reasons,
who, for different reasons,
are equally worried
are equally worried
about this loss
about this loss
of personal freedom.
of personal freedom.
Not the least,
Not the least,
innovation
innovation
in a new left American politics would be an investigation
would be an investigation
about whether we might work
about whether we might work
with some of our libertarian adversaries,
some of our libertarian adversaries,
at least to limit
at least to limit
the power of a government
the power of a government
subservient to corporations
subservient to corporations
that we don't want
that we don't want
to have anything like that power.
to have anything like that power.
I'm losing my voice.
I'm losing my voice.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.